It's time to continue with the most insightful ISF talk. Now we have our next 3 ISF talks which are lined up. And I would like to invite Mr. Amit Gupta, founder and group CEO, Ecosystem Group, and Chairman, TI Global. Please give him a huge round of applause. Next we have Mr. Rahul Gauraha, Vice President of New Business and member of Agribusiness Management Committee, ITC Limited. Please give him a huge round of applause. We have Mr. John Livingston, Executive Director, Crossroads Economic Partnership. On behalf of Team International Startup Foundation, I would like to welcome them all on the dais. We would like to invite the founder and chairman of the International Startup Foundation, Dr. Jay Chaudhary Garu, on the dais, please. Please give him a huge round of applause. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Amit Gupta, founder and group CEO, Ecosystem Group, and the chairman of the TI Global. The stage is yours, sir.
Well, I think it's a lot to process after the wonderful session, very inspiring thoughts. So I kind of feel like I want to continue on the theme of healthcare and health tech innovation, but I have a job to do. I was given a topic to talk on, so I'll stick to that. But thank you again for this opportunity, and thank you for a wonderful first half today. So, how many here, let me ask a question. Have you ever had an idea that keeps you awake at night? One that's excited you, it scared you, but also maybe made you feel like it's a bit impossible? Is there anyone here who's had that idea? Yeah, I'm sure if you're an entrepreneur, you would have had that. I had that the first time when I was 23 years old. And I'm going to quote one of my favorite quotes from Bruce McLaren. And he said, it would be a waste of life to do nothing with one's ability. For I feel life is measured in achievement, not in years alone. Could I request somebody to close that door, please? Thank you. How many here know who Bruce McLaren is? Anyone? Okay, one person. How many here like cars? How many here know about McLaren cars? Well, Bruce McLaren was the founder of McLaren, the youngest ever winner of the F1 Grand Prix at the age of 22. By the time he passed away testing his, at that time, the fastest race car, at the age of 32, he had already built the world's fastest automotive company, McLaren. So, I think there's a lot of inspiration to take from people. I will share a little bit about my personal journey. That's what I was asked to share. I want to talk a little bit about my learnings through the process, my simple rules, and possibly also share my thoughts on the future of entrepreneurship. So let me start with my personal journey. I actually come from a medical family. So my parents, my father is an orthopedic surgeon, a PhD, and is someone who has carved his own path because he came from a very successful business family but chose not to go in business but to serve in medicine. He met my mother in medical school where my mother was the youngest medical student in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. They actually had to change the law because she had topped the state board. She was 15 when she went to medical school. And she met my dad when they were in medical school. She also had a PhD and was the first woman to do a PhD in anesthesia from India. So when I told my parents that, look, I don't think I want to pursue medicine, and I didn't really have an idea that, in those days, entrepreneur wasn't really a term that was used that often, but I said, hey, I want to do something of my own. That's the term we used at that time. And for me, what worked was, what my father said to me was, he said, you know what, be limitless, go chase your dreams. But just promise me one thing, whatever you do, always do the right thing. And I think that's the ethos I've lived by, and I think it's helped me tremendously. Entrepreneurship, as we often have seen, everyone will agree, all the entrepreneurs say it's a pursuit of a dream. It's often correlated with being very cool. How many people here think entrepreneurship is cool? I will tell you, there are many moments that I don't feel it's cool. Yeah? There are many things about entrepreneurship that we don't talk about. The struggle, the uncertainty, the emotional turmoil, dealing with failures. But you know what? All of those are character building exercises. All of those actually help you become a better human being, a better leader, and in most cases, hopefully find the pathway to overcome your failures to get success. So when I founded my first startup, I was 23, my first tech startup. It did reasonably well. I raised a few rounds of funding. This was in the late 90s, and I did manage an exit. But it wasn't all that I dreamt of. Because as I went through capital raise, I realized the one thing I wasn't very good at was actually figuring out how do you actually keep control of your own company? How do you actually manage money? Because I think one of my shortcomings, I realized much later, was I didn't really understand P&Ls. I had no idea how to read a balance sheet. When they'd put a balance sheet in front of me to sign, I would pretend like I understood it, but I really didn't. I would have to call my CPA friends and ask them, can you explain to me what this means? Can I sign this? And is it legal? They would say, yes, it's fine. And I would sign it. And that didn't help. And by the time we had generated cash, our investors forced us to acquire a predictive analytics company, very ahead of his time, with a mad scientist who was the founder, and much to my dismay, it tanked. I also tinkered with an idea generated through my own personal challenges that I saw. And I got married when I was 25. And when I got married, I realized that for overseas Indians, there was a lot to get done when you had to get married in India. Because you had a short window, and you had to organize a lot in a week. And so I thought of creating a website. In those days, for some of you, I mean, a lot of you are too young to know what that term means, but I think some of you will understand the term Application Service Provider, ASP. Does anyone remember what an ASP was? This was pre-SaaS days. This was before you had marketplaces. And I built a platform, as corny a name as it can be, shadivivaha.com. But it was not a matrimonial site. It was a marketplace to connect service providers with consumers like myself. And then guess what? We launched, we put a lot of money in marketing, and then the dot-com bust happened. And the first thing I did was I said, well, sometimes that's one of the learnings you get as an entrepreneur. Sometimes you have to know when it's the right time to pack up. So I packed that up. I'd already exited my company, and I was fortunate to get an opportunity in an area where I actually pursued that. So it was interesting. I got in the area of technology research and analysis. I worked for, I got a job with a company called IDC, International Data Corporation. They're one of the largest technology research and analysis companies. And guess what? When I got that job, I turned it down because I thought they aren't paying me much. So I went home, I spoke to my wife, and I said, you know what? I feel terrible about this. I couldn't sleep at night. I said, having come as an entrepreneur, and I was in New Zealand, and I said, having come as an entrepreneur, there's nothing better than being in the technology research space that would give me the ability to get a bird's eye view of the market, because that's what IDC did, analyze all the technology markets. And it's a great way to build a meaningful network, because you talk to all the technology leaders. That's what technology research companies do. And I said, this would have been a perfect opportunity for me, and I actually turned it down. So the next day, I called the headhunter, and I said, I want to take that job. And she said, okay, let me speak to the hiring manager, and I'll come back to you. She spoke to the hiring manager. She said, he would like to understand your reasons. And I went and met him, and I said exactly the same thing. I said, look, I've got out of my startup. I'm starting a corporate career. This is an opportunity for me to learn about the industry, build the network. So I want to take that opportunity, and I will make sure this will be successful for me. And he did give me an opportunity. He didn't pay me as much as I wanted, but I tell you what, money is not the most important thing, and it wasn't at that point for me. But it has helped. That investment has helped me tremendously. So, fast track a couple of years, I became the managing director for the business in New Zealand. When all my peers were from other countries, MDs of other countries were growing in double-digit growth, we were growing our business in X's. And that's where I realized that I had the learnings from my entrepreneur life that was put to good use in the corporate world, because I treated it like my business. And I moved to Asia during the global financial crisis from a market like New Zealand to run all of Asia Pacific, because our chairman felt I was the right leader to navigate the business through the global financial crisis. And from there on, I've never looked back. Few years, great years with IDC in Singapore, and I realized it gave me this exposure to all of these emerging markets. And I realized, though, that in the early 2010s, the market was starting to change. With the advent of public cloud, with AWS, the whole technology ecosystem was changing. All the big legacy players were getting either dismembered or they were losing their market opportunity. And you had this emergence of emerging tech companies that were coming up and growing at very, very rapid rates. And I realized, I saw an opportunity that the legacy traditional research firms like IDC, Gartner, Forrester were unable to deal with the opportunity to serve this new evolving market landscape. And that's when I thought, there's got to be a better way of doing this. There has got to be a better way. There's got to be a way that leverages technology to enable that. And that's how I started Ecosystem. And from there on, I haven't really looked back, but one of the learnings that I did get, I spoke to you guys about my shortcoming, which was not understanding P&Ls and balance sheets. One of the things I did do once I understood my blind spot, during my corporate career at IDC, I made sure that I spent enough time with the CFO to actually understand P&Ls and balance sheet. So when I started my startup again, I understood money. I understood how to raise money. I understood how to manage it. I understood the legal aspects of it. So there's always learning in everything that you do. I have a few simple rules around entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship is simply an act of turning ideas into reality. It's about seeing a gap, a problem, or an opportunity and saying, I can solve that. It's about risk, not just financial, but also emotional risk. I think we talked about the fact that entrepreneurship isn't always cool, but you know what? It's very fulfilling. And one of the things that I realized, it can be quite lonely too, right? But that's the thing. There's a reason why they say it's lonely at the top. Because when you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a one-man band or you have 100 people or 1,000 people, you are at the top. It is your neck on the line, and it will be a lonely journey. But I've followed some rules to help overcome that. And I'll share some of those. The first one is always to stay the course on your purpose. That has to be very clear. My purpose is always, in life, has always been to help people, whether it's companies or people or individuals, my clients, navigate innovation. Be authentic. Always be yourself. Business is always about people, whether it's customers, employees, or investors. They will appreciate it if you're authentic. And I can tell you from my own experience, you can have the most difficult conversations and resolve them if you're authentic, because people appreciate that. Build relationships, not a network. Do not go build a network. Networks are meaningless. Build relationships. Make it count. So I have a rule. Don't engage with people for business unless you have a very clear sight on how you want to follow up with it. Because otherwise, you're going to have an empty conversation. No one has time for that. Create your set of cheerleaders, mentors, advisors. Even if they're not in the game with you, you know they're on the sidelines cheering for you. And they're there to give you some guidance. I have one of them right here. Thank you. And I've been very fortunate, and that's been one of my biggest drivers to also find a way to pay it forward as I help other entrepreneurs in their journey. When you have cheerleaders, keep your mind open. Don't let pride come in the way of asking for help. Be hungry, be humble. Yeah? People want to help people, but you've got to be able to ask for that help. And that's been one of my one of my core principles. Don't let perfect get in the way of progress, right? Because there is no such thing as perfect. What is perfect to me may not be perfect for you, may not be perfect for my team, may not be perfect for my investors. So don't focus on action, not perfection. Resilience, everyone talks about it. It's not just a word, because people often assume resilience is about your mental strength. Don't forget, when you're an entrepreneur, if you're going down, you're taking a whole bunch of people down with you. Your family, your friends. So, resilience is about being open, being vulnerable, and sharing that with people who are supporting you and surrounding you. Because when you need help, it is those folks who will be there to help you. So, and finally, in terms of my simple rules, some of you who know me well will know that I'm actually I have to pray every day. And I have my own prayer. When I was 10, my father said to me, he said, Amit, God's your best friend. Have a conversation with him. I didn't know what that meant, but you know what? Since I was 10, I've been speaking to God. So, and obviously my conversation keeps getting bigger because I want to thank God for a lot of things. There are a lot of people around me. There are more people around me and more things around me. So, but to me, a prayer does not necessarily equate to religion. Don't misunderstand me. A prayer is a belief system. Build your belief system. Something that allows you to go out there, step outside, that, in the morning, when you get out of bed, you leave your home, and you step out and you go, you know what, I'll get through this. That belief system is absolutely important. I sleep well every night, despite all the challenges, because I have that belief system. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the future of entrepreneurship as I close my talk. Are you able to imagine a better world through a digital lens? I think we heard a lot about that today in healthcare and longevity. Look, the world is changing so fast. It's hard to keep up. But what this innovation brings is the opportunities to solve real-world problems. And I think some of that we talked about today, some of that you should consider. I'm sure a lot of you are thinking about it, but the nature of entrepreneurship itself is changing now. One thing is for certain, the next wave of billionaires will be AI billionaires. It's already happening. But it's not going to be about building the next OpenAI or the next Google. It's going to be about solving for problems using AI. There is a lot of access, there's a lot of capital available for businesses looking to invest in AI, but that are solving real-world problems. Those working in AI for a long time, are probably ahead of the curve. But I'll tell you what, AI has evolved so fast that anyone who starts today doesn't have a disadvantage, because there's so much learning you can take from others' mistakes. The dimension I think to touch on is the intersection of innovation, impact, and investments. Innovation for impact and the investments that are available for it. The market becomes so much larger as an addressable market, because you're able to target underserved markets. We heard about rural markets in India today. I think one of the panelists mentioned how you could just build a health tech business by going into rural India. So similarly, as soon as you start to address impact, your addressable market increases, underserved markets, and underserved segments of society. There's a role for innovation to play in creating impact for that, and there is enough dry powder that's becoming available. You know, as we heard about this at the health tech roundtable, I wanted to share, and I'm very proud of this. So I chair the board of trustees in TIE, and one of my fellow global trustees is a gentleman called Amit Gupta. Amit has just started as CEO of a company called Immunil. They're one of the 8 companies around the world that solves for cancer treatment through gene therapy and cell therapy. It's a company that was co-founded by Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, and Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, I'm sure you're all familiar with her. Kiran was also the co-founder of TIE in Bangalore, together with Nandan Nilekani. And it is a business that's invested also by Vinod Khosla. So when you see those sort of opportunities and people taking those steps, you know that the world is going to change around us. You know that longevity is going to become a real thing. And that longevity has to address India, not just the Western world. So it's not really just about solving rich people problems. It's not just about making rich people live beyond 100 years. It's about ensuring that everyone, everywhere on the planet, gets a fair shot at life and gets to, gets an equal time frame that they can be on this planet. An interesting investment model. How many here are actually familiar with blended finance? Anyone familiar with that? Okay, great. An interesting investment model is blended finance. What does blended finance do? Blended finance brings philanthropy capital, whether it's from foundations, HNIs, together with concessional capital from development agencies such as World Bank and ADB, to back and de-risk private capital. Why do you do that? So for those of you who understand the investment landscape, why do you do that? What is the benefit of that? It is not about subsidizing investors. What it does, it actually encourages investors to take that risk for investing in areas of impact that may limit their ability to get the returns that they would normally get. And I will tell you, it is a great way to create impact through capacity building, through ventures that drive sustainability, longevity, solving for healthcare, and greater economic inclusion through fintech areas that can actually address needs of rural parts of the world. This is what inspired me to be a part of setting up the Blended Finance Fund, MIIM. This originated out of the G20 that was held in Bali in 2022, where the Global Blended Finance Alliance was set up. So I got inspired by what it could solve for, and this is an area that I'm extremely passionate about, and I hope that we can solve some problems together. Finally, as you all know, I'm deeply vested in the ethos of TIE. I've been very fortunate. I have a lot of friends from TIE. Of course, Jay Chaudhary Garu being foremost. He started TIE in Hyderabad with some of his colleagues. And of course, we got Kasi here from TIE Singapore, who's a Hyderabad boy. But we are the world's largest entrepreneur and investor community, where our charter members come together as a force for good to foster entrepreneurship across our 63 chapters. It was started in Silicon Valley in 1992 by Vinod Khosla and a few others, with just one purpose, and that was how can we come together to help entrepreneurs through their journey. And KPMG did a report a couple of years ago to measure the impact of TIE, and they quantified ties impact in terms of wealth creation, entrepreneur wealth creation at over $1 trillion US, over $70 billion invested in the entrepreneur ecosystem. And thank you. I cannot take credit for that. I am the beneficiary of this legacy, and I hope that together with you, with ISF, we can continue this movement to support entrepreneurs. I will end with the fact that entrepreneurship is hashtag good for the world, because it solves, through innovation, some of the world's biggest challenges. So let's make sure that whatever field we're in, let's try and see how we can apply our minds, even if you're not an entrepreneur. Support entrepreneurs, support the innovation, support the journey. Whether you're in academia, there's a lot that can be taken from that. I thank you for the opportunity to share my journey, and I'm very, very grateful. I've had so many wonderful people along on my journey, so thank you.
Mr. Amit Gupta, for sharing your wonderful personal and entrepreneurial journey of inspiration. I'm sure our young entrepreneurs would continue to get inspired and keep these values with them in their journey of entrepreneurship. Please give Mr. Amit Gupta a huge round of applause.